I am Dr. Fara Kamingar. We're here at the SF Derm Eczema Symposium and 100-year celebration, which is really exciting. And I'm joined by Stacy Williams, who is absolutely amazing. And I'll do a full bio as well. So Stacy Williams is currently the Vice President of Marketing for Derma Event Sciences. And Stacy has been working with the dermatology market for 8 years and has been in various healthcare commercial roles for 25 years. She wants to be known as a true integrator that delivers visionary leadership in the complex world of healthcare. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, thank you.
Total shift to the other side, but you're just doing such amazing things. I wanted to have time to speak on that, the whole field of women's health. That's huge as well, inequality. But I think you just do some really cool stuff, so I'll let you chat a little bit about.
Oh my gosh. Well, obviously I'm a woman and I'm in healthcare, which is, especially as you get higher up, it is still male dominated. It's just the nature of it. It's not, it just is. And in fact, we were talking about dermatology, and 60 to 70% of new dermatologists coming in are women. But if you look at the leadership, it's not 60 to 7% women. Yeah. And this doesn't happen. I mean, those are amazing men that have, that have these leadership positions because of experience and earned it. But,
of course. Yeah.
But you still want to be represented at that level. And so it's nowhere near 60. I'm guessing 10% maybe, even as I think. Same thing in, pharmaceutical companies as well. So it's not so much like we need women in there. It's making sure, I think, people understand the value of having that female voice in healthcare on your team, because it might sound different. It might think of different things, but the strength in that is so key, because the female, the woman, I know because I am, they're the healthcare decision maker of a family.
True.
They're the one making the decision for usually the spouse, the kids. They're the ones making the appointment. They're the ones saying if you can afford it. They're the ones filling the script. Not always, but the majority of the time.
Probably always.
Right? So to make sure they're represented, not only because the doctors are, female, but also because your main consumer and how they think about things are female. And so that voice, being able to think it through for you, I think is really important.
Yeah, that's like, it's so key. And you're right. It's a lot of it is seeing, you can only kind of be what you see, I think. So to a lot of the medical students I work with, residents, it's a lot of times, some of it is negative feedback. They're sort of told, I'll sort of random anecdote, but it was like a group I worked with last week, and they had last year, they had a women in medicine kind of blog.
Yeah.
And every article in it was somewhat negative sounding. Not that these are not real issues, but it was like burnout in women and infertility and all this stuff. And I was like,
we have so many problems.
Yeah, so many problems. And there's not one article about, look at this woman. She's the head of this place and did this and this and this.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like it's hard when you don't see it. So I think that's part of it. And the men are very qualified, of course, but it's just that women are too. And so maybe
it's different.
The thought process should change. Also, in our department, it's a smaller department. We have about 16 dermatologists, so not super small. But every year when it was every time it came around time to decide where a chair would be, usually, the clear thought would be, well, who has, less demands at home and this, that.
I know.
This year, and I have 3 small children, so there's a lot of demands at home. But I was like, you know what? This was a year and a half ago. I was like, I'll go for it.
Yes.
So I became the chair of our department. I was like, we'll just give it a try.
Yeah.
If it's really crazy, I lose a kid somewhere in a mall because I was sending an email or something, then maybe I'll step out. Let's give it a go.
Yeah.
Because these are the thought processes that sometimes go through the,
yes.
Just for me, also not everyone, but through the mom brain, how do I prioritize this and does this take away from that? I found actually this complete the opposite, where it's actually been amazing. I've been able to kind of find some solutions. Like you say, the female brain thinks differently.
They do.
I've been able to find some solutions that really saved a lot of different parts of our access problems, this and that, have really made a difference in a way where it's kind of gone up and we've gotten recognition. But I think it's that different problem solving.
It is.
But the part that you say where we sound different is so interesting, because we have a couple of extremely intelligent women in our department. They're a little bit older, but when they want something, they send a kind of a loud email, a little bit of loud email up the ladder, because that's kind of what's worked in the past too. But we were also pamphlet was smaller and smaller. So as it's going bigger, that kind of email just doesn't work anymore. You sort of have to like work within the group and understand everything. Yeah. But I feel like that when an element of that goes into the communication, I do find the rest of people might shut down. So it's really true. It's sort of having the tolerance for the communication style.
Yes.
The women also, I've actually talked to like those people, like, let's approach it a different way, and we did, and we were able to get the thing. Yeah. So it's interesting. It's not so much just like champion women, but it's like, well, how do the communication styles differ now?
Yeah.
Because
and how to work
probably
together.
Traditionally been a certain way, right?
Yes.
Like every meeting's been a certain way.
You've had to adopt and adapt to the way it's kind of the Barbie phenomenon. I feel like. One of my pet peeves and I'm trying to I have 3 kids too, and I want it for my 2 daughters. I have a son too. Like, I want the world to be more accessible to them, and I think it will be. But I hate the term executive presence. I hate it because I think when you say executive presence, what pops up in your head, like man in a suit, like barrel chest, like owning a room with like body language in this. And you have found that executive presence doesn't have to be that way. Executive presence is you leading this chair. And it's a very different way of leading. And it is more effective, probably, because everyone you need to get behind you is like you, is like other. It's a diversity. It's accepting that everyone has a different role to play.
No, I love that you said that, because that's so true. Because there is that executive presence. Like it's good to put names to these terms, because then it really just starts solidifying it. But when I walk into a room, I'm like 5'3". My husband says 5'2". But I'm like, no, I'm 5'3" on a good day. So what?
Yes.
And I'm smaller, and I just sound like this. It's also random tangent. I remember once I was a medical student, long time ago, I was in an ENT rotation, and the attendings like to just ask questions of the students. And I was like randomly just really good at anatomy back then. If you ask me now, I'm like, I don't know what nerve goes where. But back then you're in it and you're learning everything. There's one nerve that's like kind of hard. It goes from the brainstem. It travels all these different ways, goes through the facial nerves, and like basically goes to peripheral roots. So one of the attendees goes, Fara, like, tell us the route of, try to, facial nerve 7 from the brainstem. I did it beautifully. Like, I literally want to give myself a high five. Like, you nailed it. He says to me, that was good. Next time, try to not sound like a Valley girl when you say it. I was like, this is just my voice. Like, oh my gosh. And I grew up in California. This is just, this is just the way it sounds. I mean, it's a small anecdote. And med school, I think they try to just mess with you. So they'll say whatever. And I know we can't take it too personally. But there is that element of like, what does this sound like? What does it look like when someone comes in? The other day I was actually like a pretty important meeting, and like I go in, I open my laptop, and I realized my daughter had like put a couple of Gabby dollhouse stickers on my laptop. I was like, oh, yes. But, at the same time, I sat there with my Gabby dollhouse, and it came out with really good resolutions for what we're working on. Yeah. So some of that is that, just changing. It is. What does that look like? Like, what does success look like?
What does a leader look like?
What does a leader look like?
And what does a company nowadays need in leadership different than what it needed 10 years ago? It is a different kind of leader. And, you got to follow the money too. But if you look at companies that have diversity in leadership and in even mid-management, I would guess that they're probably succeeding in terms of S&P 500, because people want to feel heard and valued, and they want to be represented, and they want to be understood, because you want to work for somebody or something that means something. And so I do think that those old ideas of what an executive looks like, what a leader should look like, is different. But it still happens a lot. Like, you'll interview someone or something, and people will be like, she doesn't have executive presence. And like, it's not even anything you can define. Right? It's just your opinion of what a leader looks like. And so it's hard to break through that.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I think for dermatology specifically, I mean, like the statistics are it's majority women.
Yeah.
Dermatology-facing industries should have a lot of women.
They should.
In leadership. And hopefully they are. Do they or do they not have a good amount? Or is it still the same kind of thing where it's probably less than 10%?
It's not where it needs to be.
It's not where it needs to be, right?
I think our company is trying to do a really good job with that.
Your company is actually amazing at it. And this is actually, this is not a sponsored podcast or anything. But I think one of the reasons I feel so comfortable reaching out, and the men and the women at your company. So it means that it's cultivated that culture. It's not necessarily that, it should be all run by women. That would also be unnatural.
No,
but it's, just everyone of all gender, but it's just basically that culture of accepting and just being diverse, where I don't see it as often anymore, but there's still a couple, like even this last year I went to a conference and there was still maybe like a head of marketing somewhere, and the way he just sort of like said something, I was like, really? Like,
I know.
Still.
Yeah, still.
But it's also like, you should want to work with a dermatologist. Like, that's literally for your market, right? So I think it's I hope all the companies are really, when they're in the rooms hiring these positions, I hope that's in the back of them.
That's what we're trying to get done.
That's what that needs to
and
be
if
back
you
of their
tie
mind.
it to, in the end, it's going to increase the value of the company. But what I find is that women are underrepresented in commercial roles. So I always say, I'm like, well, women represent really high in the battle axe roles. Like in regulatory compliance, legal, you'll see a lot of female leaders in there who have learned how to own it in that way. In commercial roles, less so, which I think is really important to change, because commercial is what drives your consumer, and your consumer is a female. So having more females in your commercial leadership roles.
That's actually really interesting. Isn't that just the regulatory side? They're like, well, they have the skill set and they can do it, and that's all they look at. Whereas in the commercial side, they're also looking for this. Well, the presence has to be right. And this is that kind of the thought?
That's my theory. I don't know. I think some of these industries that kind of grew up with like the good old boy networks, and they've all now gotten to a position in their career where they are at the leadership position. And many of us didn't grow up the same. We weren't back there. So we're still trying to catch up. So I think it'll change. I know it will change, but it takes a little bit for the generations to see it. Like my kids, like my girls, like they will say things like, when the whole women's soccer was fighting for equality, and they were asking me, because they're soccer players, like, what's the fight about? And I was like, well, women want to get paid the same as the men on the World Cup. And they're like, well, yeah, they do the same job. To them, it didn't even occur.
Right. It's like,
why would
that would be obvious.
Why would you not? Why would you not? And I'm like, well, it's not always like that. But so I have a lot of optimism that the next generation, or the two generations, it won't be a thing. Like it will be. Like, this is what the world
just the
looks
way
like. This is it. So you need to be represented that way.
It's true. It's interesting. We're doing so this is the 100-year celebration. Actually 102, because the 100 fell through the COVID time.
Oh, gosh,
we will mention that.
Yeah, we will mention that,
So we made this presentation of all the chairs of SF Derms. I've been the chair for the last 3 years. I've been on the board since 2016. And I mean, it's just the way it was. It's not that the society was doing anything wrong.
It was.
So, you look at like 1921 onward, and it's a certain look, and a certain person. I mean, all really the fathers of dermatology, and they're great, extremely intelligent people. It's not necessarily say one is better than worse. And then you get closer, and it's like the past 3 years, it's myself. Then it was Dr. Mandy Twig from UCSF, Dr. Tina Bhutani from UCSF. So it's like the faces are changing,
which is good.
Changing slowly. And I think with that, medical education and these conferences are changing too. So I kind of was more the chair of this conference, and it looks a little different than the other conferences we see. And one of my goals is to just start having a little bit more innovative dermatology conferences and educational experiences, because they're really great. We've had really great educational experiences, but I just think it stayed the same. It's not that they're not good; they're very good. We've learned all our dermatology at these events, but I don't see a whole lot of changes. It kind of look the same to me now than it did 15 years ago, for example. So one of my interests is just changing how education looks, how it's set, even simple things. I mean, there's a lot of the bigger things we're talking about, like the big structural things and changing who's in what roles, but even the bigger things if we added a kids club. So like so many more of that, we can call it kind of the young physician group, like within 5 to 10 years out of residency, I think
early career
because of that, and it didn't take that extra effort, right? Like kids it's a room, but it's
3
teachers, the Play-Doh,
your customer, which is
literally, but it's enabling an early career physician to fill the gaps in their derm education, be present, network. Maybe they're not even there to network to get these higher jobs and get their chair positions. So there's like a lot of little things that kind of go to it. But but I do think, like you said, the main goal, it is kind of changing slowly. It's getting
I agree.
there.
I'm optimistic.
And people like you are making the changes, which is
it is near and dear to my heart to mentor or even offer insight or help or be that open, transparent person for anyone to come to. Like right now I'm mentoring someone early in their career, but young male.
Yeah.
And he's just as eager to embrace what that's how he's being, that's how he sees the world. And so so what I find, and we were talking about this, I was talking about this with a group of women leaders, is that you start off young, eager, ready to go. I'm breaking the ceiling. I'm getting through. You get promoted. You go from assistant manager to senior manager to director. And you're like, that's it. I'm going C-suite. I'm going GM. Like, that's my role. And I find you hit a wall right around director when you're about 2 levels away from like a C-suite leadership. And I don't know why that is. And when I ask females why they were go, and then they weren't, because at that moment in their career, either they saw what that looks like and they're like, I don't want a part of it anymore, because now they're getting privy to what it looks like or what those groups look like, and they're like, that's not me. Or you now have a family, you have balance, and things that were important to you before, you have to make that trade-off. And so it's a ceiling women stop at. And so I'm really focused on those directors, because if they don't go forward, then who are the leaders? If they've decided, if basically they've opted out and they said, I don't want it anymore.
Right.
And so I feel like we need to understand why they've opted out.
That's really interesting. And and maybe they're looking at what that role is and they don't want to be part of it, but maybe it's also that role has been defined by a different person than them. Because I find now, and this is a very smaller scale, like our department chair role, it looks very different than like other people that did it. I do it a little bit differently. It's not good or bad. We're doing really good initiatives. But you can sort of, if you get there, you can change things for yourself and everyone else under you. And like even just a minor thing, I would say, like as a mom, my schedule's busy. Having the schedule of everyone is actually a plus. Because I can be like, well, you know what? Maybe I do need to go drop off, but look, I have the schedule. There's some open clinic there. I'll put it there. I do the same for my other colleagues, male or female, I need to go to this game. Well, let's move your clinic here. So it's true. You need to kind of almost like go to the frontiers and kind of start changing things around.
And I think a lot of people see that, women see that at that level when they're getting close and they're deciding, I don't want to do it. I don't want to have to get into that fight. Like I'm happy where I am. Like all good.
Life is good right now.
And we don't want that to happen.
And since this is the Future of Dermatology podcast, we're going to always end it with a question. You talked a lot about it, but what do you think, last thoughts, future of dermatology? What do you see as major changes? And we've kind of been talking mostly about that.
Major changes. I do think that, I think AI, all of that will change medicine overall. I think personalized medicine, especially within dermatology, will be a major change. I do think that women coming more into leadership will change how things are marketed, how things are sold. I think the payer system is going to end up having to be revamped, and dermatology will benefit from it, because we don't want a world of just generic topicals and biologics. You need innovation across the spectrum. So that's my answer for you.
That's a perfect answer. That was like the nailed answer. Thank you so much. Thank you for
having me. This has been awesome.
I've learned so much, and I could talk to you forever. I have to-do lists after this. I'm like, okay, let's do this and this and this.
After we solved healthcare.
So now we got to get to work.
That's right. That's right. Thank you. Thanks, Dr. Fara.